What's up, YouTube? It's Joe Catapoli again, just working on making money while sitting on my couch by investing in fractional real estate online. As I'm just this is going to be a continuation of the other day's video about Quad City properties, looking at some of those, figuring out which ones we might want to invest in. If you haven't been following along, I'm on the Lofty platform. It's a place where I can buy um, fractional interests in real estate investments. Pretty much all over the country. Their typical token price, which is how they, each fraction is a token, is, starts at $50, although some of them are discounted significantly. Last time I was looking at a number of the properties that they have in an area called the Quad Cities. If you didn't watch that and you're interested in, my take on that market in general, uh, I'll put a link in the description. You can see where you can watch that video. But one of the things, so after going through that analysis, I told you next time I'd look at all the properties in Davenport or Davenport, still not sure which it is. Um, but one of the things that I got the question about is, why aren't we looking at this one in Moline? Because look at that yield, right? Look at the projected rental yield compared to everything else. Um, one of the things that I did, it was, looking at the rent to price ratio for all of them, right? And so it was interesting to me to see that it doesn't have the highest rent to price ratio. It does have the highest rent, but it is also pretty pricey. And so it made me wonder, like, how are they getting this crazy high projected rental yield? And like as I mentioned last time, I think a lot of the people get in trouble on this site by just looking at that yield and being like, "Whoa, that's 33%. Let me buy that one," or 35%, whatever it is. But I just want to show you something that's going on with this one, and this is something that you just have to be careful about a lot. You have to remember, Lofty, they're a marketplace. They're not the owners of this property. Their data on, the financials and everything is only as good as the inputs they're getting from the management company. But then on top of that, a lot of what gets put in there is done manually and not always by someone who is really looking at those numbers and thinking critically about them. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So, there's currently no rental yield, and it's because the tenant's behind. I think they might also, uh, yeah, be working on filling up their maintenance reserve or their operating reserve, although it's not. It's getting pretty close. Um, but when we click into their financials tab, so their gross rents always show up as zero if they're not collecting rent that month. Uh, Well, I don't know that that's actually true because sometimes I see the rent amount, even though they haven't. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting is, okay, they have zero gross rents, um, but they're showing as projected annual cash flow of 34,000. I was like, okay, wait a minute. We looked at what the rent is, and I just have it in my spreadsheet, so that's the quickest spot. So 1650, right? So what are we doing here? I mean, so if we have 1650 times 12, that's 19,800. Um, that's the gross rent, right? That's the rent, like that's the maximum. If the tenant paid every month on time, you're going to get 19,800. There's just no way that we get to this number. So it made me wonder, is this a duplex and we're only seeing one of the units show up in here? Because that's actually happened before. Okay, wait, we got a four bedroom, two bath, single family home. Doesn't look like it from the description. Um, I mean, I know that seems like a weird thing, but we actually have seen that in the past. And so let's look at the House Canary report. I'm just going to look at every place where it indicates, what the property is. All right, there's giving you one rental value, just a single unit. Normally on these, it'll say, yeah, single family detached is the property type. So I don't think that that's what's going on there. Um, see what else we can see. Okay, it only shows one lease. Normally, you'd see two. Um, let's look at the pictures and just see if we can see. if it is, it would have to be an up and down because there's only one front door. But let's look through here. Okay, we have this little back something, but is that just a garage? Okay, we got a couple of back doors there. That is just a garage, though. We just went through all those pictures, didn't see anything about any second unit. Let's look through all the notes, right? Okay, let's see, 1,600 for the contract, partial payments. Um, New tenant moved in 8-1. Okay, and this was a long time ago. 1575 plus $100, so 1675. Why is that different from this? Oh, no, 1675. So I had the wrong number in my spreadsheet. Actually, I had 1650. But even that $25 a month, that doesn't make up the difference. We can see. I mean, everybody makes mistakes. I make plenty. So there's a little data entry issue there. This increases from the previous lease at 1450. Yep. So that's the same unit they're talking about. I was trying to see if they're a second unit. Are they just not labeling it a second unit? Is it like a basement or a second? But I don't see anything. Yeah, it doesn't appear to be anything like that. And so, um, this is a situation where I'm just going to send them a message and say, hey, why is the projected annual cash flow 34,000? Um, when that's significantly higher than just the lease amount. If you had no expenses and the tenant paid every month, you wouldn't even get close to that. And so, that's really just what I wanted to show you today is that like you can't just trust this projected annual yield number because this is just a calculator, right? This only spits out a number based on what you're putting into it. And a lot of times, especially on these older properties that don't have a co-owner, it's just trash numbers going in. And whether it's because we're getting bad data from the property manager or because so one of the things that I think could have happened is like if you where you see that the tenant was behind and they tried to catch up, if they made additional payments in a certain month. Often, this platform is just annualizing anything that happens in a month, and so if you get double rent that month, I'm guessing that's what happens. Is it annualize it? And I mean, I don't really know. The real answer is I'm not sure how they came up with this. And that's why, I really encourage you to just do your own analysis on every single property, right? Like the way that we figured out that was just a completely made up number. I mean, one, we had to go and check their numbers, but it started by me doing my own simple analysis of a rent to price ratio and realizing that, hey, this one it's not like it's so amazing that, that it should be significantly higher than every other property in that market, right? There was no reason to believe this should be higher based on the numbers that I was looking at. And so it gave me a reason to dig into and really do math on what they're doing. I think, as I've said before, I think it's something that we should do on every single property, doing our own due diligence, just like we're buying that property on our own. Of course, I want to look at every piece of information that the platform gives me, but then I also want to verify it by, what they've provided. And this is one more spot we can look. Let's look in their documents and see, are there two different leases? And I would bet money that there's not at this point because it seems pretty clear that's, um, that it's just a single unit. Let's look. Lease agreement. Okay, just one. Really just one. Um, let's look at that operating reserve chart. We've had months where it's gone up. It's never gone up more than $1,000. That's one of the ways, when you see like a lot of cash moving into them. I have found ones that they were only pulling in it was a duplex, but the financials tab was only pulling the rent in for one unit. And so when you have those instances, sometimes you can see it by movements in the operating reserve chart. You know, I know a lot of you might watch this and think, wow, this is a reason to not invest on Lofty, right? Like, I mean, there's just all these, there's a lot of bad data in different spots, and it causes, it makes it tough to know if this is a deal or if it's not. But at the same time, I think that that's where the opportunity is, right? Like, it's a very inefficient market. There's problems um, with a lot of the reporting. And I think if that you can dig in and really figure out what's going on with those properties, it gives you potential to maybe, make some outsized returns. And so obviously on this one, I don't think it is, right? I'm not going to buy this. It makes, at the current numbers, I already didn't like this particular submarket as much as the others, and I don't think that these numbers have any basis in reality. Now, it is one of the better rent to price ratios of all of them that I looked at, but it's, the worst market as far as just from a growth perspective. The only other thing that makes it somewhat attractive is it is the highest rental rate. And even though it's also one of the higher property prices, um, it often gets really tough to make money when you have a real low rental rate, even if the percentage yield is good, because individual capex items can really derail you. And I think, like, when you get into these really low rents, like around $900 or below 1,000, is when you get into the most trouble with this. But even these that are all just over 1,000, um, I'd be a little bit worried about them. And so, in any case, next time I'm going to go through these Davenport properties. I know I said I would do that today, but I just wanted to jump on and explain why this particular one, wasn't my focus, even though even though Lofty said that this is the highest yield out of all of them. And so, yeah, just the real moral is, don't get duped by what they say. Do your own due diligence. Look at the property separately. Obviously take whatever info that they'll give you, and that's it. In any case, until next time, I'm just going to keep making mistakes so that you don't have to.